LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. Now listen. Having stumbled into a day job in IT years ago, I have learned more than I ever thought I needed to, or frankly, even wanted to know about computers. Computers are just like automobiles to me. I don't need to know everything about them. I just want them to work. And all that fancy new stuff that's out there now, AI, Siri, self-driving taxis. What amazes me is that every computer event comes down to a single transaction. One byte is either on or off. It's a 0 or a 1. That's it. Complicated events like AI or Siri involve millions of zeros and ones just to accomplish a single thing. But when all is said and done, it's still just zeros and ones, off or on. I guess it's the same as yin and yang, or electrons or neutrons, or should I wear my real waist-sized jeans that are still tight, or the relaxed fit ones left over from COVID? I have known my fair share of folks whose worldviews are pretty much zeros and ones, all black or all white, with hardly anything in between. Now that's necessary for computers, but our brains, wow, they go so far beyond zeros and ones. They show us a world of color and possibilities, all lying within the spectrum between light and dark. Okay, case in point, when a ray of light, which is seemingly only light or dark, hits a piece of glass, the whole spectrum of color is revealed. It was there all the time, and all those in-between colors existed. We just weren't looking at it. And that's why I'm kind of old school with the rainbow flag, which for decades has been the symbol for us gays. Because it's kind of true. We're all colors, and we're from all walks, just like those bands of color that we don't see on first look. And I don't know who gets to decide this, but they're starting to add all kinds of extra colored bands at odd angles to our simple rainbow flag. Call me an old-fashioned gay, but there are some things that are just sacred, like the weather girl singing It's Raining Men on a dance floor. You just can't mess with perfection. When growing up in 1970s suburban Iowa, I had such dreams and thought everything seemed possible until I started listening to all the 0 and 1 worldviews around me, and frankly, I started doubting myself and all those possibilities. Not a good thing to do. I felt so trapped, thinking, this is it? Frankly, I couldn't wait to get out, and when it came time to go to college in Minneapolis, I ran, though I was not sure whether I would ever find my mojo or I'd end up returning to familiar Iowa with my tail between my legs. This summer, I made a quick visit back to my adopted hometown of Minneapolis, where I spent 5 years basically becoming my adult self and realizing, there's a great big world in between zeros and ones. I hadn't been back in 2 years, and I really needed to see my favorite auntie and uncle, who were like my surrogate parents when I was in college. Revisiting a place decades later that was so important in one's journey is always interesting. And obviously, the city has changed and moved on from the early 80s. Prince is gone, as is Dayton's department store, where I worked in menswear for 3 months and in fine china for 1 month. Hennepin Avenue, once a seedy and rather fun place where we took part in a lot of shenanigans, has been gentrified. White Castle even offers healthier options, which is just plain crazy talk. Some things are the same, like my old dorm, Centennial Hall, which still sits there seemingly unchanged since the 1950s. I had a first floor room that was quite a ways from the bathroom we all shared on that floor. In the dead of Minnesota winters, it was really cold, and I would occasionally avoid that long walk in the middle of the night. I would turn off my lights, open up my window, and pee out it. I know, it's gross, a childish, stupid thing to do, but it was 3 a.m. and about 150 degrees below zero outside. Who sees? I did that a couple of times until one night some people were walking by on the sidewalk below and looked up at me. What the hell? Busted. I hope somebody washed the screen since then. This trip back, I was able to get in a quick lunch with my friend Kate in her beautiful garden. And when the two of us get together, we pick up right where we left off. Kate's husband Bill joined us, and forget it, we were all like magpies chattering away. Until suddenly my iPhone yells at me, "Duck and cover, 4.6 magnitude earthquake in Los Angeles." Holy crap, the My Shake app even alerts me in Minneapolis. And seriously, 2 days after I was to return home, we were set to have earthquake retrofitting done on our 100-year-old house. And today we have an earthquake? Oh, man. So I call Bill. He doesn't answer. I text him. Nothing. Finally, he lets me know he's fine, and the house is still standing. Brody felt it and was unnerved. And our next-door neighbor, whom I lovingly refer to as Gladys Kravitz East, I'm Gladys Kravitz West, has checked in, and everybody seems to be fine. So onward with my lunch, but first we had to figure out where the gossiping Glindas had left off. The bulk of my Twin Cities quick trip was spent with Auntie and Uncle and my family. That was the whole point. My uncle had bought tickets for us to see a show at the Chanhassen Dinner Theaters. Back in Urbandale, Iowa, we had this nosy neighbor, Wendy, who used to try and impress my best friend Tony and I because she knew we both wanted to be actors. I have this friend in Minneapolis who works exclusively at the Chanhassen Dinner Theater. Well, bully for you, Wendy, but Tony has worked there consistently for decades. In this trip, I got to surprise him and his husband and see them both on stage. I had not been to the Chanhassen Dinner Theater since a fateful callback for a show that I did not book back in the early 1980s, Bitter Table for One. But it was fun revisiting it, seeing my chums work, and am delighted it still gives gainful employment to many professional actors. Bravo, Chanhassen Dinner Theater. My trip back was quick, but proved to be wonderful and a little soul-searching. I had arrived 43 years ago in Minneapolis, a bullied kid from Iowa with a whole slew of dreams that filled the spectrum from zeros to ones, but not sure there was a place for me in the world. 5 years later, I left the Twin Cities, having discovered there was a place for this crazy kid from Iowa. Of course, I always managed to get in a quick pilgrimage to the location that was used as the Mary Tyler Moore house. Yes, I know it was Phyllis's house, and okay, it really wasn't Mary's apartment up there in those 3 windows. Conceptually, I know this to be true. But when I go there, I admit I tear up and get goosebumps, and it still makes this old man happy. This summer's been a summer of milestones. This episode of LOL Take Two is the last one of my 5th season. 5 years. Half a decade of creating these. Okay, I guess it's actually been almost 6 years as I published my first one back in October of 2018. I've taken some months off during that time. Of course, we had a pandemic, but here I am, writing episode 60. I want to get this 60th podcast written, recorded, and released because, well, frankly, when I finish it as a reward, I've promised myself a 90-minute massage with my favorite masseur, Joe. Joe is like an attractive Asian Wolverine, only instead of knife claws, he has Sears Craftsman Vise grips for hands. Oh my God. He pulls my limbs apart and does things to my body that haven't been done since those $1 Long Island tea nights on Hennepin Avenue during college. And after 90 minutes of this, he quietly whispers, "All done," and leaves the room. Of course, immediately after, I'm in a complete daze, stumbling around trying to get my legs through my underwear without falling over. I leave the room, give him his tip, and he gives me the slightest hug and says, "See you next time, Mr. Tony." My calendar shows that I arrived in California 38 years ago today. I'm feeling extremely grateful for this life. First of all, that I'm still here. I have friends who haven't been so lucky. Second of all, for my husband, my friends and family, and frankly, that my house is now retrofitted against earthquakes. That was close. But life goes on, and computers continue to slave away, only just boring zeros and ones. And yet we humans have the ability to smell chocolate chip cookies baking, to be amazed at the millions of stars in the Milky Way on a clear night, or to just have your dog Brody curled up in your lap, snoring and letting the occasional fart out. And how wonderful is that? I guess our lives really boil down to everything that happens between those zeros and ones, off and on, from when we are born to when we cease to be. And what are we going to do with it? LOL Take Two. LOL Take Two. LOL Take Two.